She had an interaction with the soldier.
Protocol breach blamed for second COVID-19 case.
Reactivating that network.
Stringent measures implemented.
Screening spots.
And school holidays brought forward.
Highly controlled manner.
From the studios of FBC Suva, Edwin Nunn.
Kulamanaka, Fiji. The breach in protocol by the 53-year-old woman who tested positive for COVID-19 should not have happened. The Prime Minister stressed this, highlighting that Fiji is faced with danger and the breach should not be repeated. The woman, who was working as a maid in a border quarantine facility, developed symptoms last Thursday but continued working and failed to notify authorities. Pranita Prakash reports.
The woman who tested positive for COVID-19 this morning has a highly transmissible case.
Our investigation has revealed that she had an interaction with the soldier when he showed up early to his room as it was being cleaned. Protocol dictates that overlap should not have happened. That is why this woman was not tested before re-entering the public.
The woman travelled between Nandi and Lotoka and also attended a funeral in Tavakumbu Friday and Saturday.
Her movement using public transport and her attendance in close proximity alongside many other Fijians at the two-day funeral makes further transmissions in the community highly likely.
The team in the West have shown us a boundary that they have maintained, and they will be going through that group as part of their screening program.
To limit the risk of mass transmission, the government has established containment area in Lotoka and Nandi from Geleloa towards Singatoka, Vakambuli and the YY crossing bearing towards Bap. The Ministry of Health and the personnel from the discipline forces are establishing screening points in these areas. Pranita Prakash, FBC News.
And we now join Koroi Tandulala live. Koroi, what are travel arrangements in and out of the containment zone?
Edwin, those who want to travel into Nandi or Lotoka have been given 24 hours to do so, keeping in mind that once they enter, they will not be able to leave for the next 24 hours. The Ministry of Health is also giving approval to anyone who wants to enter the containment area for flights out of Nandi.
And Koroi, how will the Ministry of Health reach out to those who may develop COVID-19 symptoms?
The ministry is reactivating fever clinics that were set up across the country last year to screen for anyone who may have developed COVID-like symptoms. Mobile screening will also be conducted in the Central and the Northern Division. This will be done in accordance to COVID-safe measures to ensure the ministry is able to identify any possible case outside of the containment area as well. The Ministry of Health has already put in place certain COVID measures within the lockdown area.
We have set up a number of screening spots, both fixed and mobile, that we will then keep searching for cases within the containment zone.
Prime Minister Vorenge Bainimarama says it is necessary for those who may have developed any symptoms to visit the nearest fever clinic.
We are reactivating that network of screening clinics across the country to keep with those COVID-like symptoms away from vulnerable people who visit health centers and into the separate, dedicated spaces especially designed to effectively identify possible COVID-19 cases.
The Permanent Secretary for Health also highlighted the need for Fijians to pick up their COVID habits that led to the containment of the virus last year.
As I said, the 2-meter distance, putting on your face mask, especially within the containment area, your hand sanitization work, all need to be things that we will have to escalate towards.
The government is calling on all Fijians to continue practicing social distancing, avoid large gathering, and practice COVID-safe measures to ensure the virus is contained. Koroi Tandulala, FBC News.
All schools will be closed from tomorrow for the next 3 weeks. This is a precautionary measure against COVID-19 and the recent cases, as the Education Ministry says the safety and well-being of children and teachers are paramount. Lena Rees with the details.
Measures will be in place for students within the containment areas who will need to return home.
If they are in the containment area and need to return home outside of the area, they will be allowed to leave in a highly controlled manner.
In line with this, the Health Ministry will strengthen its COVID-19 measures.
We will be escalating our screening system, much like when we had the acute episode with 18 cases. And if we don't find any more new cases over the next 2 weeks to 1 month, then we will be a bit more relaxed and say, okay, we're back again to where we were before.
Since the 24-hour curfew has been lifted and reverted from 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. in the Nandi and Lautoka areas, businesses have also been allowed to open.
Banks can open so that people can get money. Pharmacies can open so that people can get medicine. FNPF can open so that people can access funds. Other businesses, such as factories and shops, can open as well.
The businesses have been reminded to follow strict COVID-19 measures. Lena Rees, FBC News.
And we now join Lena Rees live. Lena, what measures do businesses have to adhere to?
Edwin, the Prime Minister has stressed that businesses must ensure they have strict COVID-19 physical distancing measures in place before they open their doors. Businesses who have queues must ensure that customers are spaced 2 meters apart and that they manage crowding. Now, they've also mentioned that those businesses who have face-to-face interactions with their customers, they are to limit customer capacity by 50%. And those businesses that cannot manage these risks with safe COVID-19 measures will be shut down, Edwin.
Lena, there are also restrictions on any type of gatherings. What's allowed and what's not?
Now, there will be no religious services held and non-work gatherings should not happen at all. These restrictions are not just for the contained areas within Nandi and Lautoka, it's for the whole of Fiji. And the restrictions will be in effect for the next 14 days to allow for people to go about their lives as safely as possible, Edwin.
Nakalina. Early this morning, police were out in numbers in Nandi and Lautoka, monitoring movement following the announcement of a lockdown. Many people were not aware of the restriction and were advised by police to return home. Felipe Naikaso has more.
This was the scene in Nandi this morning following the announcement of the lockdown and a 24-hour curfew. Police officers mounting checkpoints in a few areas to restrict unnecessary movements. No one was allowed outside of Nandi and Lautoka.
I strongly believe that the borders of Nandi and Lautoka should be closed because it's for the paramount safety of our people.
I think it's a good idea in order for everyone to be safe, like not to get the virus. So yeah, it's a good idea for us to get locked down.
Businesses in both the areas were also closed. Officers were in foot patrol as some people were still loitering in town.
Really good idea because for the safety for the public, it was very good.
Lockdowns are nothing new for the people in Nandi and Lautoka, but now with the 24-hour curfew lifted and reverted to 11 p.m. until 4 a.m., Fijians will be able to access essential services again. Felipe Naikaso, FBC News.
And Felipe is live now from Nandi. Felipe, what can people and businesses expect from tomorrow?
Well, Edwin, the good news is that the 24 hours curfew that was imposed earlier this morning has been lifted, and we will revert back to the 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. curfew. So this basically means movement and COVID-safe activities will be allowed within the containment area. Also, supermarkets and shops in Nandi and Lautoka have already opened, and this will allow people to buy food. From tomorrow, the FNPF, banks and pharmacies will also be open to allow people to access services, money and medication. The Prime Minister, Vorenge Bainimarama, during the press conference earlier today stated that these measures are stringent enough to ensure that the risks are minimized and to allow people to move freely, especially in Nandi and Lautoka.
Naka Felipe, up ahead. Witness tells of victims' struggle in alleged murder trial. And Sodelpa compiles complaints from members. Welcome back. Hundreds travelling to the Western Division were turned away this morning after bus companies halted operations between Suva and Lautoka. The companies say they are following the government directive restricting entry into the containment zone. Christiana Uluwai reports.
Many of these passengers were unaware of the lockdown measures as they turned up at the Suva bus station this morning for their journey.
It's affected because the journey, our route has not been traveled from here to Lautoka, and plenty of people are just stuck up here, and then because the bus not end up right in Lautoka.
Only 2 drivers were allowed to make their trip early this morning as they live in Lautoka.
At the moment, we're just sending the bus to Lautoka. Most of the passengers, they just go back home because it's a lockdown stayed in Nandi and Lautoka.
These drivers waited on advisories from relevant authorities, but their trips to Nandi and Lautoka were halted throughout the day.
Very hard time, eh? Can't help it. I don't know what about the Nabwa and Nasuri side, Suba Nasuri.
This necessary lockdown came exactly 1 year since our last community transmission in 2020. Christiana Uluwai, FBC News.
And before we move on, just a quick clarification. We said earlier that people who enter the confinement zone in Nandi and Lautoka will not be able to leave for 24 hours. It should in fact be they will not be able to leave for 14 days as of 24 hours after their entry into the confinement zone. Just reclarifying, once anyone enters the confinement zone within the next 24 hours, they will have to stay within that area for 14 days before they can be allowed out again. And moving on to other stories, 44-year-old Jennifer Ann Downs, allegedly murdered by her Congolese husband in 2019, had visible injuries on her body. Police Detective Inspector Petro Loli took the stand in the Suva High Court as 39-year-old Henry Lusaka's trial continued this morning. Pranita Prakash reports.
Henry Lusaka is charged with 1 count of murder for allegedly killing his Australian wife in July 2019. The alleged incident occurred at their rented home in Sevi Street, Suva. Inspector Loli testified the items were scattered when they entered the house on 23rd July 2019 and discovered the body on the floor of one of the bedrooms. The witness said the body was facing upwards and 2 $2 coins were placed on her eyes. He said there were signs of struggle as there were bruises on the deceased's right-hand fingers, upper hand and around her neck. He said they also discovered the female end of an electric cord beside the body. Inspector Loli said before leaving the premises they had cordoned off the area and continued examining the scene the next day. He denied the whole scene was staged during the cross-examination by the defense. The trial will continue tomorrow. Pranita Prakash, FBC News.
The Social Democratic Liberal Party Secretariat is putting together complaints and grievances against various party members. General Secretary Lenaita Sinduru says complaints will be presented to the Management Board next month to determine the next course of action. Josiah Nanunga reports.
The current disciplinary procedure in the Sodalpa Constitution is weak, and the party will be endorsing some amendments at the next board meeting.
The Constitution demands that we comply to the sections of our Constitution that cover the setup of our internal structures.
Party leader William Ngavoka says they are working towards addressing various internal issues among its members.
And, in the next Management Board meeting in May, we will have a report from them that we believe will be conclusive. Conclusive in the sense that they would have completed their investigation. And from there onwards, the Management Board takes over.
Duru also confirms they will take disciplinary action against Linda Tambuya for allegedly defaming the party. This was after Tambuya called for party president Ratu Epenisa Vakumbau and leader William Ngavoka to resign from Sodalpa, among other allegations. Josiah Nanunga, FBC News.
The Unity Fiji party had a change in auditors, causing a delay in the submission of its audited accounts to the Fijian Elections Office. Registrar of Political Parties Muhammad Saneem issued suspension letters last week to Unity Fiji, Freedom Alliance and Hope for failure to comply with the Political Parties Act. All parties are required to submit audited accounts to the registrar within 3 months of the end of the financial year, but they failed to do so until March 31st. Unity Party leader Savinathan Arumbe says their suspension has been lifted as they submitted their report last Thursday.
Our accountant advised us that we had to change auditor. So we had to change auditor. Otherwise, our accounts would have been ready on time. So it was a technical issue which was well beyond our control.
Still to come, Australia and New Zealand travel bubble begins. And later in sports, Tailevu faces pressure.
The Love Our Locals campaign has benefited many hotels. However, occupancy rates continue to fluctuate. The Fiji Hotel and Tourism Association says some of its members have enjoyed 100% occupancy during long weekends, while others continue to struggle. Koroi Tandalala reports.
Extra staff were called in by most hotels as they tried to cater for the demand from locals during weekends.
On the Coral Coast, many of those large properties have reported that they enjoyed 70 to 100% occupancy. Not every single hotel provided their full rooms to make them all available, but those that did said that they enjoyed full occupancy.
Pentasha Lockington adds the employees are called in based on the occupancy.
So you can see you have suddenly everybody's working and then you don't have anybody coming to stay, so you have to let your people go home.
Tourism Minister Fayaz Koya is reminding Fijians to get vaccinated.
The most important thing to remember is everybody needs to get registered and vaccinated.
The FHTA says Fijians now have a lot of options as the hoteliers are working hard to provide good deals under the Love Our Locals campaign. Koroi Tandulala, FBC News.
Here are the local exchange rates as set early this morning. When the Fiji dollar drops versus the major international currencies, it tends to rise against the regional currencies. And that was the story today, as the Sangamoli rose versus the Aussie and Kiwi dollars as well as the PNG Kina. Prices were mixed on the commodities market. Oil dropped slightly but remained above $63 a barrel. Gold was up at $1,776 per ounce. And silver closed higher at $25.87 per ounce. Sanifa joins us with the latest from the money markets.
A quick update of the South Pacific Stock Exchange last week. About 4,500 shares were traded in 9 transactions, valued at around $18,000. Following these trades, the market capitalization for the week recorded a decrease of 1.68%, closing at $3.23 billion. In a quiet start to the week, the US dollar was pinned near a one-month low today, with Treasury yields near their lowest more than a month. This came after the US Federal Reserve repeated its view that any spike in inflation was likely to be temporary. Meanwhile, Japan's March exports posted their strongest growth in 3 years, led by a surge in China-bound shipments, indicating some pandemic relaxation between the two countries. The major item on the calendar for the next day or two is related to controversy over President Biden's $2 trillion infrastructure bill. That's all for now from HFC Bank, Vinaka.
A good number of farmers in Overlau are now investing in yasi or sandalwood farming. Vero village elder Tangilala Tukana says sandalwood is amongst the most demanding commodity in the local and international markets. Tukana adds they are planting yasi now, which will benefit the future generation.
Most farmers are now planting yasi. It will soon become the most viable product and generates thousands of dollars for farmers. I believe more farmers need to invest in this farming practice.
That is the latest from my end, but coming up after the break, climate change affects fishermen. Stay with us.
The impact of climate change on the ocean is affecting some licensed fishermen in Nosori. The fishermen, who spend most of their days at sea, claim warmer temperatures have reduced their catch in several fishing grounds. Kelly Vadala reports.
These fishermen claim their daily catch has declined, affecting their livelihood.
All the fishermen are complaining about the quantity of the fish is less because of the climate change.
Alatini Bambiao, who has been fishing for over 2 decades, says they have to be cautious with their catch.
To be careful with the type of fish we catch now, because the ocean is becoming more acidic, it's slowly warming up, and corals are bleached. This is why some fish are becoming poisonous.
For these vendors, climate change is modifying fish distribution and the productivity of marine and freshwater species.
With our fish stock declining, I think it's about time we fishermen also change our fishing tactics, use more traditional and safe fishing practices.
There are more than 20 fish vendors at the Nosori market, many of whom are middlemen. Kelly Vadala, FBC News.
Having a disability is no barrier to following your dreams. 23-year-old Dhruv Karan Nand, who is visually impaired, wants to venture into the field of journalism and politics. Jeshulal reports.
A student who faced difficulties in reading and writing due to his vision has made his parents proud of his achievements at the university.
Challenges were there. I faced challenges sometimes reading from the blackboard and writing, so some of my friends were really helpful. They used to dictate me notes.
He has made us, the parents, very proud as he is doing so well in university.
Criticism from his peers and social stigma did not hold him back, and he will soon graduate from university.
As a person with a low vision, I would say it's not an easy task, but if you believe in yourself, you can do anything, and you can achieve your goal.
Nand is an inspiration to many for following his dreams and not allowing his poor side to weaken his determination to succeed. Jeshulal, FBC News.
And tonight we catch up with the Ministry of Health Permanent Secretary Dr. James Fong, who gives us more details on the quarantine protocol breach in Nandi last week.
Could you briefly explain how the woman breached the COVID-19 protocol?
She went to turn it down, like when they turn it down, it means put all the linen around. And in the course of turning it down, the story we had was that the soldier himself came into the room. Now what should have happened was that both should have reported that they have broken a quarantine condition, and the woman should have gone into quarantine.
Was the woman symptomatic when she attended the funeral in Tavakumbu, Lautoka?
We know that she was infectious. She was symptomatic the day before. We think that the fact that she was symptomatic the day before she went to the funeral means that she was infectious for that whole period.
Has the ministry been able to gauge how many people she came into contact with during the funeral?
We have already cordoned off or sorted out the boundaries of the church circuits that attended that funeral. We have some idea of where to find most of the people, and then we haven't counted numbers because you're talking about a geographical area. So maybe tomorrow I will be able to get a little bit better update from the team out in the west as to how they're going to actually strategize themselves to cover that area and screen everybody.
And sporting activities affected by COVID-19. Jamie has the details.
That's right, Edwin. Ahead in sports, new dates for Coca-Cola Games. And no DPL for 2 weekends. This and more coming up. With all sporting events shelved for the next 2 weeks, organizers of the Coca-Cola Games have come up with a backup plan. The Fiji Secondary Schools Athletics Association is hoping to have the Fiji finals in August. Aquila Dama with the details.
These athletes will now have to wait a little longer for the Coca-Cola Games.
Major events on the calendar over the next 14 days, including the Coca-Cola Games, university graduations and rugby matches, will have to be cancelled.
However, the Schools Athletics Association has a plan B.
Thought about deferring the games to the 19th, 20th, 21st August. But given the last briefing by the Prime Minister, we are hopeful that by then everything will be back to normal.
Major sponsors Coca-Cola has confirmed they have booked the ANZ Stadium for the August dates.
When lives matters, that's all that matters. And I'm sure every single parent and athlete and child will understand what we're trying to do. We're trying to safeguard lives here. We're trying to fight the unseen enemy, which has been battling around the world.
However, Tikaram adds everything will depend on how we get through the current situation. Aquila Dama, FBC Sports.
Aquila Dama joins us live now. Aquila, while there's a backup plan in place, what about people who have already bought tickets?
Jamie, fans that have already bought Coca-Cola Games tickets now have been urged to keep them. Fiji Secondary Schools Athletics Association General Secretary Wuli Wanga says these tickets can be used again in August if everything returns to normal, and we'll have the games by then. Now, on another note, some athletes are already in town, including those from the islands. Today, 4 schools featured at the ANZ Stadium in the Maritime Zone. Now, these schools included Andi Maopa Secondary, Vivia High School, Ratufino Secondary, and Rotuma High School. Now, Fiji's Secondary School Athletics Association President Marika Uluinadeva has confirmed that they'll assist these athletes and their coaching staff to try and get them back home safely, Jamie.
Thanks, Aquila. Now, round 7 of the Digital Premier League will be played on 8th and 9th May. The Fiji Football Association has confirmed that all competitions are on hold for the next 14 days. Chief Executive Mohammed Yusuf says the deferred competitions include the Digital Premier League, Senior League, as well as the Women's Super and Senior League. Development programs are also on hold.
Fiji FA is now thinking of resuming and playing the 7th round, the last round of the first leg of digital matches on the weekend of 8th and 9th, which is just a week prior to the digital Fiji Fact.
Complacency is a major challenge the Navua football team is facing in their bid to remain in the Digital Premier League. The side was on a high after defeating Ba in round 5 and had to fight hard to manage a 2-2 draw against Nandi yesterday. Tali Materakula reports.
Coach Amit Prakash says the players' complacent behavior could have resulted in a loss.
Again, I think the boys got relaxed and this, actually we had a lot of talk in regards to that, our mindset, and we wanted to continue from there after the Ba game, but we are happy with the point.
Loopholes on defense continues to haunt the side.
Defense, we gave 2 easy goals. Rami Manu was out, and in the next game he'll be in, so we'll get our defense fixed.
However, Nandi coach Shalen Lal says Navua has proven to be an unpredictable team.
I salute Navua. They really played well in the second half. We went up by 2 goals, but then we started to maintain our defending, but unfortunately that red card maybe changed the game for us.
Navua is on 7th place with 5 points, while Nandi is on 4th with 9 points. Tali Materkula, FBC Sports.
The Tailevu rugby team will want to improve on a few areas before facing Nandrunga in round 3 of the Skipper Provincial Cup. After going down to Northland last weekend, coach Saramai Mbai admits they need to make better on-field decisions. Tali Materkula has more.
After the loss to Northland, the players' mental fitness is a concern.
Few areas of knowledge around where you need to be on the field. I think that, the bigger bodies where we need to sift the ball. Probably the knowledge and we just want to play smart rugby.
The team will need to relook at their style of play when they face Nandrunga next.
We're trying to change the mindset of just being a defending team. We want to attacking team by defending, and a mindset where you get the ball back. But it takes a lot of energy.
Northland, on the other hand, needed the win, and the tactical changes was worth it.
It was a must win for us playing against A-Level. So I thank the boys, thank my men. We changed the team totally because we brought in the experienced players because we really needed this win.
Both teams will use this week to rectify their mistakes before the next round of competition on the 1st of next month. Talima Terkula, FBC Sports.
Fijians Frank Lomani, Marika Koroimbete and Isi Naisarani's efforts for the Rebels were not enough as they lost 20-26 to the Brumbies in Super Rugby Australia yesterday. Fiji Mbati winger Mikaele Ravalawa scored for the St. George Illawarra Dragons, but his side lost to Kane Evans and the Warriors 20-14 in NRL Round 6. In today's quirky sport of the day, something I'm sure most of you may have tried already, tug of war. But would you believe it was once an Olympic sport? After the break, Angie joins you with weather, but for now, that's it from sports. Vinaka.
A big hello to you and welcome to the weather world. A very settled Monday across the country. The sun was actually outstanding and the air quality was fresh. Well, hope you had a good weekend because another one will be here in 3 days. Now on to the other parts of the country. The west had a nice start to the day and continued throughout. The temperatures rose a little to about the mid-30s. A clear night will follow. Eastwards from Peck Harbour to Suva, a cloudy one which later cleared to sunny spells. The night will see a few odd showers but won't bother visibility. Moving closer to the north, a bit uncomfortable as the temperatures were a bit high in Lambasa, giving off the sticky vibes that most of us are not a fan of. The places we will be looking today is Peck Harbour, Lautoka and Nambawalu. The interesting part is Lautoka was much more humid, 83% to be exact. The most comfortable place was Pacific Harbour. As you see, our friend Will here was all smiles. At sea, southeast winds 15 to 20 knots, moderate seas. Turning to the tides, high waters at 12:21 a.m. with low waters at 6:08 a.m. Sunrise at 6:16. For tomorrow, so there is huge bands of cloud cover coming from the upper north, which may be a slight disturbance to the northerners and the western division. And looking further on to Wednesday, clear spells to follow. Now on to our shot of the day. It is from Kayasi village in Navosa. The gentleman opted to be carried on a cow's back rather than a horse. Remember to send us pictures, send it with a small description to our FBC News Facebook page. That's all from the weather world. After Fijian Pulse, we'll be seeing something very dangerous. That's all with Edwin. Stay tuned.
Thanks, Angie. In Fijian Pulse, we ask, what do you think of the Health Ministry's effort following the recent COVID-19 case?
I think the ministry has done its part and it's up to us, the public, to follow instructions now.
Well, I think they've done a very good job.
Yes, I believe the Ministry of Health has done its job.
Because of COVID, we should respect the decision of the Health Ministry.
In the world of the weird, but maybe not the wonderful, take a look at this young person performing dangerous acts on a speeding bus. And recapping our main stories, protocol breach blamed for second COVID-19 case, stringent measures implemented, and school holidays brought forward. For these stories and others, you can tune in daily to our sister radio station Gold FM. To our poll question, last week we asked, is bullying an issue that needs to be reported to the police? 55% of those who voted said yes. This week, we are asking, have you downloaded the Care Fiji app? Visit our FBC News website to answer. You can send us newsworthy pictures and videos. Email fbcnews@fbc.com.fj or share it with us via our various social media accounts, including Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. You can also download our FBC app to keep updated with the very latest news and sports and listen to our 6 radio stations live. That's your news this evening. I'll be back again tomorrow. Until then, stay safe. Modemanda.